I was once trapped here, now so are you. Eli stepped back, trembling. We need to get out now. But when Marcus tried the door again, it wouldn't open. The room itself had locked them in, trapping them with whatever dark force haunted this place. They were alone, or so they thought. A low scraping sound came from walls, and the mirror began to tremble. It was as though something or someone was trying to claw its way through from the other side. Get out, or become part of the story, the woman's voice came again, as the glass on the mirror began to crack. The room grew colder. The clock ticked once more. 3:13 a.m. And then everything went still again. The woman in the mirror stared at them, the glass now spiderwebbed with cracks, blood dripping slowly from her face. Suddenly, the mirror shattered with a deafening crack, sending shards flying across the room. They turned, eyes wide in panic. But the room was empty. The door, however, was ajar. The door stood ajar, an unnatural chill creeping from the crack. Beyond it, darkness stretched into a void that felt deeper than the night outside. The hallway beyond was silent, save for the occasional creak of old floorboards. Marcus stood frozen. His body screamed to run, but his legs wouldn't move. Do you see this? Jade whispered, voice trembling as she clutched her arms tightly. The door, it's open. How? Eli, his face ashen, stepped forward cautiously. We didn't open it. It wasn't even moving before. The air felt denser now, as if the weight of the night had pressed down on their shoulders. Everything about this place felt wrong. The walls were too close, the silence too complete, and the door, now half open, was inviting them into a world they couldn't understand. Let's go, Marcus finally muttered, forcing his legs to move. His heart raced in his chest, a drumbeat of terror pounding in his ears. He turned the door handle, pushing it open wider. What lay beyond was not what they expected. A long, dark hallway stretched before them, but it wasn't like the one they'd walked down earlier. This one felt older. The wallpaper was more faded, peeling away like skin that had aged far too quickly. The air smelled of decay, of something long forgotten. The walls themselves seemed to pulse with a slow, rhythmic vibration. Is this the same hall? Jade asked, her voice barely a whisper. It feels different. It's not, Eli said, his voice tight. He was the first to step across the threshold, but his hand still hovered near the door, ready to slam it shut at a moment's notice. The moment they crossed the threshold, the door behind them slammed shut with an echo that rattled the entire building. They turned, eyes wide with fear, but the door had vanished. The once familiar walls of room 313 were replaced by more narrow hallways stretching farther into the dark. Suddenly, a soft whisper broke the stillness, faint, barely audible. Welcome to the other side. Marcus's blood turned to ice. That voice, he'd heard it before inside the room. It was the woman from the mirror. What the hell is this? Jade breathed, her voice strained with panic. This isn't real. This isn't real. But it felt real. A door at the far end of the hall loomed, its outline faint in the darkness. It beckoned them, despite every instinct screaming at them to turn back. But there was no going back. The whisper came again, this time louder, more insistent. Don't open it. Once you enter, you won't leave. The words hung in the air, thick and suffocating, like a curse placed over the room. But despite the warning, Marcus found himself walking forward, each step heavier than the last, his legs barely carrying him. He reached for the door handle, and as his fingers touched the cold metal, a sharp, ice-cold breath grazed the back of his neck. He spun around, heart racing. No one was there. The hallway stretched on, now bending at unnatural angles. The architecture twisted, defying the laws of physics, like the building itself was alive. The deeper they went, the more oppressive the air became. The shadows seemed to cling to them, pulling at their skin, tugging at their thoughts. Eli grabbed Marcus's arm, his face pale. Marcus, this isn't real. We're not in the same hotel anymore. We've crossed into something else. The whisper came again, this time from the walls themselves. Turn back, you cannot survive her wrath. Jade's breath caught. Her wrath? Who is she? Before anyone could respond, the door at the end of the hallway creaked open by itself. The room beyond it was an exact replica of room 313. Everything down to the smallest detail, the faded curtains, the cracked mirror, the old quilts, was the same. But there was something different about this room. The air felt thick, as though it were saturated with anger, with sorrow, with something ancient and angry. And there, standing in the center of the room, was the woman in the white dress. Her face, once hidden behind matted black hair, was now visible in its full horror. Her skin was a sickly gray, mottled with dark veins. Her eyes, empty, black voids, stared directly at them, and her mouth twisted into an expression of sorrowful rage. "Run!" Jade screamed, her voice cracked with terror. But it was too late. The door slammed shut behind them, trapping them in the room. The woman began to move toward them, her body gliding unnaturally, her feet not touching the floor. The air grew colder, and the sound of her breath, a low, ragged wheeze, filled the room. "You shouldn't have come." Her voice was distorted, garbled as if it came from far beneath the earth. Every step she took was followed by a faint thud, the sound of something heavy dragging behind her. Marcus backed away slowly, but no matter how far he moved, the woman never got closer. She simply glided forward, her eyes locked onto his. Eli reached for the door handle again, but it wouldn't turn. They were trapped. The woman's lips parted, her mouth stretching unnaturally wide. From within, a cold, ghostly scream filled the room. "You will stay forever." And just as suddenly as the scream had erupted, everything went silent. The room was silent, but the air was thick with dread. The woman, now mere inches away from Marcus, stood motionless. Her face was locked in an expression of twisted anguish, her eyes hollow and black, her mouth still stretched into a grotesque smile. But there was something else, something darker, deeper in the shadows of the room. Marcus's breath hitched in his throat. He could feel the weight of the room pressing down on him, the oppressive presence of the woman surrounding him. Every corner of the room seemed to close in, and the very walls felt like they were alive, pulsating with a slow, steady rhythm. The door remained locked, and the whispers returned, louder than ever. "You're not meant to be here. You've opened the door." Jade, still wide-eyed, turned toward the room's only window, but the view beyond was nothing more than an endless void. A void so deep it swallowed all light, offering no escape, no answer. "We have to find a way out." Eli shouted, his voice echoing in the suffocating silence. "This is all wrong." Suddenly, the woman in the white dress raised her hand, a single, skeletal finger pointing directly at Marcus. Her lips barely moved as she whispered in a voice that felt like ice scraping against stone. "You broke the rule. Now you must join me." Marcus recoiled, his heart hammering in his chest. He could feel the pull of something dark, something ancient, dragging at his very soul. The woman's gaze bore into him, and for a moment, he thought he saw something flicker behind her eyes, a glimpse of something familiar, something human. Suddenly, the lights flickered, casting erratic shadows across the room. In the shifting gloom, Marcus could see something he hadn't noticed before, a door hidden in the corner, blending into the darkness. It was the same as the door they had entered through, familiar yet different, strange and unsettling. The door was not locked. It stood open, waiting. "The door is the only way," the woman whispered, her voice both cold and mournful. Jade turned to Marcus, her face pale and shaking. "What is she saying? Do you think that's our way out?" Marcus looked at the door and then back at the woman. He wasn't sure what was happening, but every instinct screamed that the woman was trying to lead them somewhere. To what? To a place far worse than this? Do we trust her? Marcus asked, his voice strained. Or is she trying to trap us? Before Jade or Eli could respond, the woman raised her arms, and the temperature in the room dropped even further. Ice-cold winds whipped through the room, making the air thick and unbreathable. "You must choose," the woman said, her voice now echoing in their heads. "You cannot stay here. The door will take you where you belong. Do you wish to escape, or to stay with me forever?" Marcus looked back at the open door, but the hallway on the other side was a swirling darkness. It beckoned them, but also repelled them. Every bone in his body screamed for him to turn and flee.